It was the pre-dawn hours of May 22nd. The Atlanta Police Bureau and the FBI had been staking out bridges along the Chattahoochee River for the last 2 months. That morning, while 4 officers sat quietly under the South Cobb Drive Bridge, one of them, an Atlanta recruit, heard a splash. Several radio messages and a flurry of activity soon had a car stopped. In it was 23-year-old Wayne Williams. No arrest was made then, and no one inspected 2 bags of clothes, the pair of men's shoes, or the gloves seen inside the station wagon. For 2 days, the task force quietly dragged the river, not finding anything. 3 days later, 2 people in a canoe did. The nude body of Nathaniel Cater, a mile downstream from the South Cobb Bridge. For the next 2 weeks, Wayne Williams was being watched. Police thought the surveillance was undercover. Williams says not so.
They put a tail on me starting last week. I made them probably in the first hour or 2. And in the process of tailing me, a couple of the guys apparently weren't very good drivers, and I caused them to have a minor accident. And I think they were just pissed.
By June 3rd, task force leaders decided their surveillance had in fact been spotted. That night, they entered his home with a search warrant, confiscating bags of alleged evidence. Across town at the State Crime Lab, experts claimed that fibers taken from a carpet and bedspread that night matched fibers taken from the victim's head. Dog hairs taken from the family pet also matched animal hairs taken from the body. But after 12 hours of intense questioning, Wayne Williams was not arrested.
We have not, nor do we intend to make an arrest. We have, as we do on many occasions, follow-up and investigative leads to determine exactly where those leads ultimately takes us. In terms of our efforts tonight, we have not ended up with the information that would result in an arrest.
What followed was 3 more weeks outside the Williams home. The media watched what was later called police presence, which was watching the non-suspect around the clock. Finally, on Father's Day, a month after the bridge incident, Wayne Williams was arrested and charged with the murder of Nathaniel Cater.
Right.
Since his arrest on June 21st, Wayne Williams' lawyers have filed 42 defense motions. The most recent asks that the 2 murder charges against Williams be dropped because of what the defense calls prejudicial and inaccurate pretrial publicity.
See, he has been tried, and may as well say has virtually been convicted long before by the media.
Homer and Faye Williams are retired school teachers. They say most of their savings have been spent supporting their son's home radio station and his musical promotion business. A recent highly controversial magazine interview in which Wayne Williams calls the FBI Keystone Cops netted the family $2,000. But lawyers say it will take thousands more to defend Williams. They have launched a nationwide appeal for money, trying to raise an immediate $40,000.
The fact that you have so much evidence that's going to concern forensics, acoustical tests, fiber evidence, and it's going to be necessary to employ experts in order to effectively assist in Wayne Williams' defense. And obviously these things are going to cost money.
Privately, few investigators believe Wayne Williams is the only man who may be responsible for the murders and disappearances of Atlanta's young blacks. But some parents of the 26 other victims accuse police of backing off their investigation since Williams' arrest.
The city of Atlanta shouldn't have let so many of the investigators go that was on the case. They should still be out here looking for the murders of the other kids.
The Williams claim that police, desperate for a break in the case, set up their son's arrest.
They didn't have and don't have enough evidence, not only to indict him, but to arrest him.
I just like to give them a warning that whether they believe it or not, the killer is still at large. He's out there.
I think he had something to do with some of them. I don't think he killed them all, but some of them I do think he did kill.
Now that they've arrested one person, do you think that the case is solved?
I don't think so. I don't think he was the only one in it. Someone else was involved.
And someone said it's another party. It's not solved.
This is the house. We learned today that the FBI has been watching this house on Gray Street near Techwood Homes for the last 3 weeks. And we also confirmed today that the Special Task Force is also watching the happenings here. Tom Terrell owns this house. He says he's a homosexual. I interviewed him on Friday. He told me that Larry Marshall, who is now in jail in Connecticut, knew Timothy Hill. His body was pulled out of the Chattahoochee River a week ago today. An investigator with a special task force interviewed Larry's former roommate, Jerry Thornton, today. The investigator had the pictures of 22 of the murdered children with him.
Did he show you all 22 pictures?
Yeah.
Of all the kids?
Yeah.
How many of those kids have you seen before over at Larry's?
I told him about 10 of them.
10 of them you recognized?
Yeah.
10 of them, what did they used to do?
Just come up there on the porch, they slave for change and stuff like that.
Marshall was in jail here in Atlanta up until last July. That's when, according to Thornton, Marshall started hanging around with the children. Marshall has also been arrested in Atlanta for, among other things, running a house of prostitution. But Thornton says Marshall wasn't the only one who knew the murdered children.
Did Tom know all those kids too? Tom Terrell did? And why did Tom know them all?
Tom probably knew all of them.
Why would Tom know all of them?
Because they try to see somebody to look up to. And like Tom, they just go up to Tom's house all the time.
Larry Marshall went before a Fulton County Superior Court judge today for a brief hearing on an attempted armed robbery charge. But the real activity in the case is taking place behind the scenes. District Attorney Louis Slayton admits that his office has received a list of demands from Marshall's lawyer, demands that Marshall says must be met before he will talk.
The attorney did make certain demands. Those demands cannot be met. So we're back to square one on it.
The defense is trying to show that the police were investigating that the Ku Klux Klan may have been responsible for some of the child murders, but that file was never turned over to help with Williams's defense. The first witness today, Billy Joe Whitaker, says he worked as a police informant during the missing and murdered investigation. Whitaker says he told police detectives that a Klansman from Mountain View, Charles Sanders, told Whitaker he killed one of the child victims, Luby Jeter.
Well, I told him that I believe Charles Sanders, the Ku Klux Klan, killed this one kid named Jeter.
Bobby Lee Cook and William Kunstler say they have a letter from Atlanta Police Major Herman Greiner that calls Sanders, the Klansman, the prime suspect in the murders 4 months before Wayne Williams was arrested and charged with 2 of the murders.
Vice President George Bush came to town, offering Mayor Maynard Jackson full federal assistance in dealing with the nightmare. And, according to attorney William Kunstler, Bush may have pressured the city to arrest Wayne Williams, even though the evidence was weak. Mayor Jackson denies it. He claims that neither Vice President George Bush nor Governor George Busby ever tried to bring pressure on him or anyone else in his administration.
There was a meeting at the governor's mansion, and let me just kind of tell you what precipitated that. Louis Slayton was a fine district attorney, a good friend of mine. He was under a lot of pressure to prosecute Wayne Williams. When Wayne Williams was arrested, and if you do your research, you will find where Louis Slayton says there's just not enough evidence, right? You nod your head, so you know what I'm talking about. There's not enough evidence. And Louis Slayton has always been a good prosecutor, had a good eye for prosecution. The local FBI agent who was assigned here at the time went to Washington, and it is my understanding he talked to President, I believe it was Vice President Bush, and he got in contact with the governor of the state of Georgia at that time. And I understand that there was a message from Washington that said that either you prosecute or the Attorney General will prosecute. Now, with your local politician, he could not he couldn't handle that kind of pressure where the Attorney General of the state of Georgia was come into his jurisdiction and prosecute. So he had to do it. But that was a result of the meeting at the governor's mansion where information was passed down from Washington to our governor, and this is what I understand happened. If he doesn't prosecute, we're gonna cut off all state, federal sharing, fund sharing with the state.
They had to have a black suspect, period. If they had found out what we know now, that was Klan involvement in these cases, that was involvement of the United States government with knowledge of some of these things right now, if these things had been known back then, you probably would have had Civil War #2 being fought right in Atlanta, Georgia. They had to have a black man, so there's no other way about it. And I think what happened was that once my name entered into the FBI computer system, because at the time they had a system, well, this is classified, you're not supposed to know, but I tell you, it's called Vortex. They had a system called Vortex. And once my name began to pop up with some past connections and things that I've done versus my father and all, I think the decision was made at the White House to prosecute Wayne Williams in this case, damn everybody else. I think that accounts for the meeting at the governor's mansion that was held 2 days before I was arrested, and I think this accounts for the behavior on the part of people in the White House, Mr. Starr, Kenneth Starr, who was in charge of one of the investigations of this case, as well as then Vice President George Bush. I think they made a deliberate decision to prosecute me, as they say, come hell or high water.
I just think with the evidence that they have, one person, I don't believe he could have did it all. Just one person. I know Wayne. He came through this neighborhood before, and during the time that he came, he was a strange person. He goes as undercover policeman and ride in different cars, but it's something strange. Somebody else knows something else about it. He's not in it by himself.
Well, why do you think the police have only arrested him then?
They got to have some suspect, somebody. Atlanta's going it's about to blow. It's going into turmoil now. But I don't think he's by himself.
What do you mean it's about to blow?
I mean, people, the children there are getting tense. The people around here, they don't know what to do. They're scared, they're frightened. It's just about to it's just going to blow.
So what are you saying about, how is that connected to Wayne Williams and arresting him?
Well, I couldn't say directly what it would have towards him, but I still say it's somebody else.
What you saying, they just trying to get somebody, put it on somebody.
Take the pressure off.
See, that's what he's saying.
I'm saying, I'm indirectly, I said that he would have something to do with some of the killings, but not all of them. Not all of them.
Now, the way I interpret what he was saying, they was just grabbing for straws and finding blame it on somebody.
You think that's true?
Yes. But I still believe Wayne got something to do with it.
He's a very intelligent person now. Now, they're not going to get him they'll probably try to hold him to get him to crack, but he's very intelligent. It won't be that easy. They're going to have to come up with some very solid physical evidence. And so he's not going to crack. He's a very intelligent person.
I don't think he's going to get on there and nut up either.
Very intelligent.
Do you think the case is solved now?
No, I have to agree with everyone else said that you can't blame it all on just one person. But the suspect that they do have, if anybody know anything, he do. He's been seen in some of the bars and stuff that the other kids were seeing that. He had the singing group over there at the Captain Pig. He got a lot to do with it. If anybody could say something about what's going on, he could.
So you think he knows something, but you don't think he's the only...
I think they just gonna use Wayne as a straw. See, the pressure coming from a lot of different places. Like Washington sending money down. They getting tired of sending the money. They want to hurry up and end the cases so they can stop sending the money.
Where else is the pressure coming from besides?
Oh, downtown. Lee P. Brown, all those kind of people. They got pressure. They don't really have good evidence to hold him. So by holding him now, they're making his case a lot more stronger against them. So if he get out and he don't prove to be the one, it's gonna be hard to beat Wayne then.
Are the people putting pressure on the task force by criticizing it, forcing it to make an arrest?
Well, I couldn't really say nothing about the task force because they don't do nothing no way. When they were just ordinary police, they wasn't doing nothing.
They're just getting a check.
Just looking for a raise. Every time you see them on TV looking for a raise. Just like the bus drivers.
What about the safety in the city? Is it safe here now for the kids?
I don't think it's safe anywhere. You know, you got crime all over the United States. It's not safe anywhere.
But what about here in Atlanta? You got a crime situation here that's abnormal.
Okay, well they're taking extra precautions and everything, but still, if someone want to get those kids, they're gonna get them. You know, they can't watch them 24 hours, and it's just simple as that. The parents have to do their job along with the police and along with the community. It takes everybody involved, not just one person, and not just one task force. They can't do it.
Do you think that with one person arrested, that it's safe out there now for the kids?
No, honestly, I don't. I think, like, the guy that they got, maybe he committed half a dozen of those murders, but it's still a lot that's unsolved and it's a lot that's unproven, you know. And I believe there's some more people involved.
When will you relax? When will you feel that it's safe here in the city?
The only time I will feel safe is when they find out who committed all those murders. Not one, but all 28 of them.
A year and a half after all these kids been missing, I come home one particular night, hear a 3-year-old kid walking 9:30 at night in this wintertime. I tell him, I said, say, man, where your mom and dad? He don't know. He really just know his name to tell me. So I said, well, come on, man. Me and you'll try to find out where you stay. Now, if I were the killer, it'd been the same thing. This kid come to me because I'm grown and he think I'm going to help him, not to hurt him. But we find, after we don't find where he live at, then I said, well, the best thing to do, call the police, let them come pick him up. When his parents find out what's happening, they can call the police and say, well, we got it. So we call the police and tell them this. Well, the police tell me, so we don't have no missing report on him. I said, well, somebody kid missing because he in my house. And when he finally get there, they walk and find the kid's parents. After he gets so close back home, I guess he realized where he lived. When he go in the house, the parents don't even know the kid out the door. Now, how can you say that this town gonna be safe when the parents don't even know where their own kids is and let a 3-year-old go out the house? If mine get quiet, I'm going to see what he doing because I know he either gone or he in the sun. And it's just simple as that.
What do you mean when you say he's impersonated other people?
This park around here, this is a neighborhood park. We've been around here for 25 to 30 years, and people come and people go. But Wayne, he was a weird person ever since high school. You know, he's very intelligent. During his days in elementary school, I think around in the 4th grade, he was in a science project and he built a volcano and made it erupt right in the classroom. He's built homemade bombs. He has almost a laboratory in his house. Running a radio station from his house. He's very intelligent, but I think he never, you know, all the goals he set out for, he always was a failure at it, you know. But he'll come back and he'll try something else, you know. I think he really wanted to be really more than what he was. But what can you say?
How do you?
He has been dressed as a lady.
Yeah, in those apartments where we grew up. We used to go to Wayne house and play with him.
We didn't get that on. He's impersonated women.
Well, if he's not impersonating a woman, you know, he was wearing women's clothes, so what can you say?
Impersonate old men.
So you've seen him dressed as a woman?
In the gay society, yeah. That would be Martin Luther King area, you know, late at night he would be strolling.
Marquette.
He would be strolling, he'll have his wig and dress on, you know.
Yeah, he's a known homosexual.
He's a known homosexual. The people around in the park, we know him, but we don't condemn anybody for what they want to be, you know, but he never did anything around the park, but we all knew he was strange. We would speak to him, and that was it. He's smart enough that he can come up with some kind of chemical form that I believe that he could really take the kids out with that won't even show up in the bloodstream.
When I was going through school, when I started in college, I was approached to work for something called the JLT program, the Junior Officer Training Program, which is a minority recruiting program for the Central Intelligence Agency. I actually went so far as to take 2 trips to Camp Perry, Virginia, 1977 and 1978. And these people wanted me to work with them because I already had an electronics background, I knew photography, and they were having some problems at the time in Africa. Apparently the United States, what we were told, was involved in some action in Africa going against the government in Angola and all, and they needed some blacks to work for them at the time. So in the process of considering me for that, my name was already on the government's computer roll. And I think after the bridge stopped, when you put 1 + 1 = 2 together, people jump. And I think that's exactly what happened, panic. And let me say this too. At the time it happened, you've got to remember, I called 2 names to you. I called Gerald Rafshoon, who was President Carter's chief of staff. Gerald Rafshoon, at the time when Carter went in, George Bush was his director of Central Intelligence. During the radio station era, we came to find out that while we were operating the radio station, I was also under surveillance by the FBI's COINTEL program. The NSA had a program which was also called Minaret and Shamrock. If you get those files that came out of the Frank Church hearings in 1975 and 76, I am the young black reporter that's mentioned in those files where we were under observation because of our association with SCLC. They knew me for a long time.
You understand? I mean, you have to understand the man, Wayne Bertram Williams. He was a child prodigy because he was smart, but he was no murderer. Atlanta does have some very serious, dirty little secrets. There was some high political movement on this case. My window was shot into with a .30-aught rifle, and it hit right in the center of my desk where my chair was sitting. I didn't happen to be sitting there. One of the attorneys who worked on my case, George Crooks, was cut up into 12 pieces and put into 12 plastic bags and put in a dumpster. My investigator was shot in the back, killed, and many witnesses in this case are dead. And it's even deeper than that. When we got word, the Georgia Supreme Court, I took the case up to the Georgia Supreme Court. I got a call from one of the Supreme Court justices. Now this is unheard of, okay? He called me. He said, "Listen, Mr. Wadley, I don't want you to be dismayed by this decision." He said, "We had reversed this decision." He said, "On the day before it was supposed to come out, there was a phone call." He said they twisted and they turned. Then they had to rewrite this opinion in one day. Who called? He said he's going to let me know. I'm going to let y'all know.
Police closed most of the child murder cases after Wayne Williams was convicted. He was a young black photographer, and he was tried only for the deaths of 2 adult victims in 1982. Officials named Williams the prime suspect in most of the kids' deaths, but they said charging him further was fruitless. He already had 2 life sentences. When Williams was arrested in 1981, many found the notion of a lone black killer hard to believe.
Nobody know who killed these children. And there's, 1 or 2 cases that they never found the body of? So it looks like to me they want to charge him and take our minds off the reality and say he did kill these 2, possibility he killed the children. So now if there's no connection and you're saying that we didn't prove that, then let's get on the case and find out who killed these children.
The 2 young men, you were convicted of killing. Did you kill them?
No, I didn't. I never met either victim in my life.
Convicted in 2 of the cases known as Atlanta's Missing and Murdered, reportedly implicated in others, Wayne Williams still says he didn't do it. That much hasn't changed. though Williams maintains he has.
This is not the same Wayne Williams people saw running around in the street making fun of the police. Not at all. This is a mature person who can look back and say in hindsight, you know, Wayne, you were an idiot back then, because I dug my grave just as much as anybody else by the way I acted.
For example?
Okay, for example, during the time when I first became a suspect, we had the little police chases and things of this type. And I never thought for any minute that I'd be here right now. To me, it was almost a game, because I said, well, heck, I hadn't done anything, you know, I'll just play with these people. But now, since I'm a little older and can look back on that, I can see how this may have given people the impression, look how he's acting, because they never knew Wayne Williams. And what Wayne Williams has done over the past 14 years, I have found out who I really am.
Williams is at Valdosta Correctional Institution in South Georgia. He is in the general population, and he told us works as a dorm orderly first thing in the morning. After that, he says much of his time is spent with the recreation department.
I officiate a lot of games, and right now I'm in the middle of coaching a softball season. We're undefeated so far. We're going to try and keep it that way.
We also encountered the man convicted in perhaps Georgia's most infamous murder case in another prison activity. At a prison revival service.
One of the things that I've done since I've been in prison, I'm pursuing a degree in the ministerial field at this time. And it's something I think that the death of my mother helped spurn me on, because I found out that unless a person matures in all aspects of the life, you don't have a complete person. The way I was acting and all wasn't pleasing to God. So I said, Wayne, you got to make a change. And that's what I've done.
But we come back to the murders he is in prison for, where he still maintains his innocence. Now, you know, some of our viewers are probably saying he had his day in court. Jury found him guilty.
During the time that the case came about, the city was in a state of mass hysteria. And if I, myself, being a young black man, had been on that jury out of simple fear, I probably would have voted for conviction too out of ignorance.
But remember, the courts have so far upheld what the real jurors decided more than a dozen years ago. Not that Williams, who says he killed nobody, and a sizable team of lawyers have given up. Nighttime at a prison in Valdosta. There, inmate Wayne Williams maintains he sleeps well.
My conscience doesn't bother me like a lot of these inmates you talk to here in this institution. A lot of them have nightmares about what they did. Wayne Williams didn't kill anybody. He didn't hurt anybody. I sleep good.
He still denies the 2 murders of which he was convicted. He denies the rest of the more than 24 other killings considered part of Atlanta's missing and murdered case. But as long as that's the case, he faces an obvious question.
Who killed the young men commonly referred to as the missing and murdered?
From what we have been able to gather in 14 years plus of investigation, there was never a single killer operating in Atlanta. From what we know, you had several groups of unrelated killings that happened at the same time. Some of them involved certain race hate groups that we know about. Some of them involved family or kin of some of the victims. Some of them involved sex groups, and some of them involved drug and criminal activities.
How could you possibly gather evidence to implicate 4 different separate groups?
Well, Mark, the thing about it, the evidence has always been in the police file.
There was nothing in it to suggest that we could prove a case on anybody else ever.
In the police files?
In the police file.
Fulton County District Attorney Lewis Slayton prosecuted Wayne Williams.
I did say jigsaw puzzle, and I did say we'd put the pieces there where they could see the big picture.
Any new evidence, he's got a great group of lawyers, so anything he comes up with will be thoroughly evaluated.
And Williams and attorneys have been involved for some time in court proceedings involving something called a petition for a writ of habeas corpus, a legal challenge to his imprisonment. Lee Sexton says he's one of 5 lawyers working currently without pay on Williams' case.
In all the years that I've practiced, I have never seen a more egregious case where an innocent man has been in jail for some 12 years.
All right, but defense lawyers say that kind of stuff
a lot. You're telling us that you think a judge this time will agree with you. You really think that?
I think based upon what was presented.
Yes or no?
Yes.
Williams also referred to the possibility of parole one day. You may be the most famous or infamous person in a Georgia prison doing time for a murder conviction. Do you harbor realistic hope of parole?
I do, for two reasons. Number one, my case is still active, as you know, court-wise, and I didn't kill those people. And I think that a lot of the people, especially in Atlanta, realize certain things happened during my trial and during my case that were beyond anybody's control. And all I want is the chance to prove this. And number two, I also realize now, after these 14 and a half years, that my own actions did not help me. I have had the chance to mature as a person.
Parole Board spokesman Mike Light told me late this afternoon, given the attitude and makeup of the current parole board, the nature and notoriety of Williams' crime, and the expected public reaction, Wayne Williams should not expect parole anytime soon, if ever. Do you have to cope with a certain celebritude in the prison? Does that make you a marked man in any way?
Well, when I first entered the prison system, I would say it was somewhat like that, but over time it's tempered, and here at Valdosta, I keep a pretty low profile around here, so it doesn't bother me. They know me as just plain old Wayne.
Much of the rest of the world, of course, knows him as the man convicted of 2 killings and suspected of others, among the cases known as Atlanta's Missing and Murdered. Still, Wayne Williams lives among the general population at Valdosta Correctional Institution with, we're told, no special security measures beyond what any inmate gets. And you may be surprised at some of those Williams indicates he has encountered.
There are several families that I keep in touch with right now that are involved in the case. And during my stay in the prison system, I run across nephews and brothers.
You're talking about families of the so-called missing and murdered.
That's correct. I've run across many since I've been in prison. And these people tell me all the time, Wayne, we don't believe you killed our family members, because I'll be honest with you, Mark, if these people for 1 minute thought that I was guilty of what they claimed, I wouldn't be alive right here today.
They'd kill you in prison.
That's right. That's right. And what this has done to me, it has given me more of an insight into the pain and tragedy that the victims have gone through throughout all this period of time.
I sent him up the street to get me a pack of cigarettes, and he never did get to the filling station because the people in the neighborhood knew him. You know, he was a Boy Scout, a little Cub Scout, and he sung in the chorus at school. He was a very artistic boy. He was smart.
Willie Mae Mathis, who lost son Jeffrey in 1981, says she is one of the victim relatives who has kept in touch with Williams in prison. She acknowledges that after the trial, she proclaimed Williams a guilty man. But now...
He didn't do it. He's smart, but he's not that smart to get away with 29, 31 murders, you know?
Oh, Patrick, he was a great kid. You know, he was very smart and intelligent, you know, and at the time, you know, we was all grieving over the children that had been missing, you know, and then all of a sudden, it hit home.
Today, we also met Sheila Baltazar, who told us she was stepmother to 11-year-old victim Patrick Baltazar, and she told us,
I feel like the Wayne Williams did not kill my son. I believe that the killers are still out there.
You're not saying he didn't kill anybody?
I'm not saying that.
I'm going to always believe that he picked Curtis up.
Catherine Leach says her son, Curtis Walker, was a special child, that she's not sure if Williams killed him, but she believes he killed at least some of the young men. We played for her portions of the Williams interview broadcast earlier this week.
The type of man he is and the way he speaks on the TV. And the type of person that I am, that I can see that there's some lies that are coming out of his mouth.
You don't believe him? If you were sitting at home, do you think you might be looking at this person on the screen and saying, if he's innocent, how can he talk so calmly about it?
For the reason that I am innocent.